I used to not have any physical limps. Now I do because of the, surgery with the knee. The audience knows that. But you literally went through life with a limp, which I love the title of the book. Tell us why you chose that title and the message behind it.
Kind of backing up a little bit with the backstory, if you will. I was born in Berkeley, California, and the first episode of polio, in my case, I'm one of those rare guys that had polio 2 times, and the first time around was when I was about a year old. My dad and mom were Oklahomans way back in the day, and we grew up during the time of the Great Depression, became part of their narrative, their world, as well as the Dust Bowl. So my dad took freight trains to California looking for work. Mom came out and they were married there. So the first stretch of my experience with polio was one that they actually knew that I was not well, but I kind of came through it before they realized anything was going wrong. And it left me with the actual limp that I carry today. But the reason for the title of this book, is because indeed the physical limp is a point of reference, but every human being, all of us, right, we carry internal limps. We are imperfect beings. We've had pain in our lives, some of it self-inflicted, certainly in my case, and also imposed upon us, pain and hardship, difficulties. And so we struggle. We have various kinds of struggles. So yeah, living with a limp has dual applications in my own life.
So just a bunny sidebar question. Did you ever get vaccinated for polio?
I didn't, Evan, because of my age where I am right now. I was
before the vaccine.
Yeah, at the time of the vaccine, it came out 1 year after my second episode.
Oh wow!
With polio. So, and I was 9 years old at that time. So Salk vaccine came out in 55, I believe. I had my second bout with polio in 54 when I was 9.
Just curious, because there's a lot of, I'm a young parent, so there's a lot of debate over to vaccinate or not to vaccinate. So I was curious.
Sure. The March of Dimes was an amazing organization back in those days when I had the second round of polio, which really was my most severe case by far than my first episode. Although it left me with little or no physical evidence in subsequent years. But the March of Dimes was this organization that ended up funding basically all my medical care. So
that's awesome.
I'm indebted to them.
I get their letters all the time. Jerry, regarding your book, and life, because it is a memoir, just speak of your experience, speak of your journey, your life, and some of the lessons that came from the spiritual and physical limps through your life, and kind of what's in your book.
Yeah. With my story beginning as it did with my dad and mom on their journey, neither of them were believers when they met. They were both very poor Oklahomans. Dad was orphaned, lost both of his parents before he was 7 years old. He was the youngest of 6 children, and they were just poor dirt farmers from the Tahlequah, Oklahoma area. So a part of their journey had to do with a limp of its own sort. When they arrived when he took up residence and brought mom out, she came out on buses to the San Francisco Bay Area. Their first child was a daughter, and then their second was a son, so Betty and Bobby. they developed asthma, both their two first children. So after a time, they realized that in that damp climate of the San Francisco Bay Area, they needed to find a drier environment. So they moved to Phoenix, Arizona. But in Phoenix, they faced a real tragedy. They lost their son, Bobby, at 3.5 years old to drowning in an irrigation canal, just a freak accident. Well, that, of course, stopped them in their tracks. They were so deeply grieving, sorrowing that. But meanwhile, my dad's older sister, who had moved to Phoenix with her family, had become a believer. And her name was Debbie. So Aunt Debbie was beautifully instrumental in bringing my mom and dad to an awareness of hope through Jesus. And so shortly after the death of my brother, who of course I never met, they came to faith in Jesus, and it made all the difference in the world.